Welcome to the Introverted Servant Leader Podcast, a show dedicated to empowering purpose-driven women in corporate leadership to amplify their impact and influence. I'm your host, Sharissa Sebastian Deppen, a leadership and executive coach with over a decade of experience who guides introspective leaders in harmonizing personal aspirations with professional success. In each episode, we'll have thoughtful conversations about leadership, making decisions, embracing growth, and maintaining work-life balance while leading with quiet strength. We're so glad you could join us. Let's redefine leadership together. Hello there, and welcome to today's episode on the Introverted Servant Leader Advantage. And I feel like this might be one of those topics that we cannot speak about enough. Because as introverted servant leaders, I can say this from my own experience. And after coaching, thousands of leaders up to this point, especially leaders that are introverted, I hear this time and time again, where there's always this comparison, right? So as you go through your leadership journey and as you go through your career, it's so easy as an introvert to compare yourself to others because a lot of times it's extroversion, right, that is celebrated in the workplace. So today we are going to flip the script and we're going to talk about why it's so important to focus on the advantage that you have as an introverted servant leader. So I have at least 9 or 10 of these that I want to share with you. And this is not an all-encompassing list. There is so much more. But I'm going to start by just touching on these 9 or 10. And so today's episode is to remind you of your superpowers as an introverted servant leader. This is all about embracing who God made you and leveraging those strengths to have more impact than you can ever imagine without falling into the comparison trap. So you ready? Let's go. So the number one is, by nature, introverts tend to be really good at asking questions that drive growth, self-discovery, and reflection. So think about a time when you have done this, or maybe even somebody has complimented you on the fact that you are really good at asking good questions and really going deep into that process of self-discovery and reflection and things like that. The second thing is you have the ability to slow down enough to think before you speak, right? A lot of times we are very introspective. We want to take the time to really absorb, to think, to process before we speak, which is absolutely a superpower. Next, you're most likely really good at analyzing and driving direction in conversations. This is another thing that introverts tend to really thrive at, is looking at things from different perspectives, doing that analysis, and being able to drive the conversation in a meaningful direction. The next thing, and this is probably something you're already aware of or you've heard of, is that you're most likely a really good listener. And you can often pick up on nonverbal communication too, which makes it easier for you to connect with others and have empathy. Also, introverts tend to communicate quite well through writing, which gives them time to reflect and articulate their thoughts clearly through the written word. The other superpower that you have is that when you feel like you have time to prepare and really analyze what's needed and think about things and reflect and all of those things, you can often come across as really confident and articulate. And you probably know this about yourself, right? When you feel like you have the time to do the preparation that is necessary and ask the right questions, and you feel like you have the information that you need, you feel more confident in showing up, in making a decision, in communicating effectively, and all of those things. So that can be one way that you can really step into your confidence. Another one of your superpowers is empowering career development in others. Since introverts typically don't feel the need to step into the limelight, they often focus on helping others step forward and develop their own potential. Next, creating a culture of inclusivity is probably something else that comes naturally to you. Making sure that everybody's voice is heard and making others feel valued and acknowledged. Because we often know as introverts, especially maybe early on in your career, I say this from my own early career experience, is that it's very easy it was very easy for me to fade into the background, not want to really speak up, but really take the time to absorb and things like that. And so as an introvert, especially as an introverted leader, you tend to see that in others. Like you tend to notice when others are not speaking up, and you tend to be a lot more aware of that. And so you can draw that out of others and make sure that you're creating that inclusive environment and that inclusive culture around you, which again is an incredible superpower to have. And then the last superpower I'll touch on today, even though there are so many others, is your ability to perceive the subtext on a level that others may miss. So this kind of goes back to the fact that you are a really good listener, you're a really good observer, and you tend to pick up on cues and things that are unsaid so that you can have a fuller picture and, kind of get more of that well-rounded type of, information that you need to be able to really communicate effectively and build on those professional relationships. So like I said, this is not an all-inclusive list, and this doesn't mean that this is exclusive to introverts either. But I do feel like it is so important to take the time to acknowledge yourself for these things that you just innately do, or the strengths that you have, and really lean into that. So now that you know this, or now that you've been reminded of some of these things, I hope this gives you a little pep in your step and helps you to see how valuable you are, especially when you are able to embrace your introverted leadership superpowers and lead by example. And with that, as we wrap up, just know I'm rooting for you and praying for you, and you've got this. If you loved this episode and want more, I invite you to join my free training on how to lead in times of uncertainty and rapid change. You can find it at leadershipmasteryalliance.com/training. The link will be in the show notes below. You will learn how to lead yourself and your team highly effectively and be a standout leader when things get tough. That's all for this episode of the Introverted Servant Leader Podcast. I hope you found value in our discussion around leadership for introverted servant-hearted women thriving in the corporate space. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd be so grateful if you left a review, subscribed to the show, and shared it with fellow purpose-driven leaders. Your reviews and shares help amplify the influence of introverted leaders worldwide. I look forward to connecting further on the next episode as we continue to redefine wise, compassionate leadership together. Until then, lead with grace, embrace your strength, and remember, your quiet leadership is a force that shapes the world. Take care and stay inspired.